who I'm going to let describe himself and his books now before we get started.
Hello. As Caroline said, I'm Michael Winson. I am a debut author. Some of you guys may have seen my book Incognito popping up on the book club. I've always wanted to write, and for a very, very long time, I felt like I should be writing something, but it took me a long time to understand what I wanted to write. And the idea for this came to me on a really boring, arduous commute into London, as I was listening to people talking about nothing except for Brexit. And 3 months before that, nobody was talking about anything except for potential terror threats. It just seemed like the whole changing conversation had thrown a switch in people's minds, and now nobody was thinking about it. And it clicked to me that actually, as much as I love a good serial killer story, that was probably more likely to affect me. So that was me on my path to writing this.
So, how much research did you do for the novel?
In advance, not a lot. I had an idea, and I kind of pictured, it's really the opening scene of the book. I pictured a young man with, I suppose, what you call deadly intent, stood by one of the huge pillars that I know very well in the Trafford Centre in Manchester. I'm from Manchester. I used to go there a lot, and it was one of those things that caught your imagination. You know, it's all concrete and glass. It's a huge building, and it occurred to me walking through there one day. You know, well, what if that pillar came down? What might happen? So that just came up out of nowhere, really, and stuck with me. But in terms of research, there was a lot as I started to write. I deliberately weaved very real factual events into the book. Obviously contributing some fictional ones in there as well. But each of those things involved quite a bit of research. At one point, I warned my wife that we might be getting a knock on the door from the police or somebody, because my internet history was not good. There were all sorts of things, from how do you wire an explosive charge to the beginnings of ISIS and Al Qaeda. So yeah, the research really came as an idea came to me. I wanted to really fully understand it before I decided that was the right one to go with.
So did you go into more detail into, because I'm trying to understand how you got into the head of like the characters that are sort of drawn into an extremist ideology, and how you researched that and how you would be drawn into it, and kind of the lore around it?
It kind of flowed quite easily, really, the research, because, you know, I wanted to understand how this young boy, Abdul, in the book could come to the UK, why he might come to the UK in the first place. And the more common, the more typical kind of scenarios where somebody can turn from being quite an innocent, football-loving youngster to someone who's perhaps got more of a malicious intent. So yeah, I did a lot of research there. You know, I wanted to be very careful about how I portrayed Abdul and his environment. So yeah, I spent quite a lot of time researching online. I spoke to quite a few people who have big ties in the Islamist community, the Muslim community, and I learned a lot from that. It's a tricky kind of line to walk. You know, you have to be very careful about how you portray these things. It's hard. I've no doubt that I've not got it completely right.
Did you get people to check it for authenticity, or?
Yes, I did. It's meant to be quite a fast paced, and it's absolutely fiction. But yes, certain parts there they had to be checked. They had to be read by people who know the subject matter better than me. So yes, I did lean on a few people that I've met over the years to have a read and let me know what their thoughts were. I've probably redrafted this book several. Well, there's at least 9 redrafts gone in. Some of them actually after I'd first published. I made the mistake of publishing too soon, and I actually changed a lot of the book after I'd first self-published it to republish later on.
Do you were you worried about sort of giving people an idea?
Not until later. And funnily enough, after Caroline, you and I filmed a short promo for tonight, in the days subsequent to that, there were things happening in the news. I suddenly thought, oh my God, what am I doing? And yeah, I do get a little worried about that. But then I kind of wanted to, in a way, not to give them an idea, obviously, but you know, like I said at the start, this was all anybody spoke about for a very long time until Brexit happened, and now you only have to ride a tube in London to see the difference. Nobody's looking, nobody's watching or taking any notice of anything that's going on around them anymore, and that'll be even more the case with COVID now. But it's still, in my mind, the most likely event to possibly affect people.
Jason Kelly wants to know about your writing process.
That's a tricky one, Jason, to be honest, because I'm still learning that. What I had to do here, I work full time and I work in quite a high intensity job in my day job. I've got 4 kids at home. My wife works for the same company as me, so she suffers the same intensity and pressure as I do. So what I've learned in publishing this book is that I'm not somebody who can do an hour in, come away, and then go back again. I have to really immerse myself in it. Every time I've gone back to continue writing, I've had to read the entire book again from the beginning to just get myself in the right mindset. So I prefer to just take big blocks of time. I probably wrote 60% of the book in the first week. I took a week off work. I locked myself away from the kids and my wife, bless her. I sat upstairs with my laptop and just went at it. And I didn't finish it until later in the year when I could take another week and do the same thing. So for me, it's a very intense time. I have to really just shut out everything else and get my head in the right space to be able to build some momentum.
Author chat admin and a fellow Mancunian for you.
Hi Sam.
Says hi, and how did your wife feel about the lead being based on her?
Bless her, she was very happy. She gave me a telling off in the first draft because she thought I'd made her a little bit too slutty. So I did get a bit of an ear bashing for that. But yeah, she was very pleased. You know, all of the characters have borrowed traits from people that I know, and Lisa, who is the main character, has a lot of my wife. She's got some from other people as well. She's got some opinions that are perhaps a bit divisive. And they're not all my wife's. They've been borrowed from others. But yeah, she was happy. She was pleased.
And then Jason wants to know how much time you spend choosing your character names.
Do you know, there was only one really that I struggled with. All the others felt quite natural, and again, I may have borrowed from some real people. But yes, there was only one that really hit me, and I had to properly research the meanings of the names before I chose them. So yes, Hamza Al Naswari is the guy in the book who stumped me for a while. It probably took me a couple of days to get to that one and settle on it.
There's another question about, will any of the incognito characters be appearing in future books?
Yes, they absolutely will. The next book is 50% done. I'm not going to tell you which ones are in it, but yes, they will.
Are there topics that you wouldn't write about? Because obviously you've chosen quite maybe a divisive topic for this one.
Yeah, well, I think there's a few in here actually. You know, and very deliberately, I've touched on some of the more taboo topics that we have in our society, but no, I don't think there is. As long as I was comfortable that I could do them justice and I'd done the right and enough research to portray them in the right way. I'm a big believer in having an opinion in a book as well. You know, I don't think that a good book should ride the fence all the time. I think it should challenge people's thinking.
It is quite a thorny issue that you wrote about, though. And if you look into things like the prevent strategy and stuff that's been developed to deal with like extremism, there is like a lot of shades of grey in people who are. Do you think you represented that in the novel?
Perhaps not. Perhaps not. But again, you know, it wasn't something that I wanted to necessarily go into and represent all sides of something. It was something that was meant to challenge to a degree.
Is that why you chose to include real events as well?
Yes, yeah, I wanted it to have a good, real feel to things, and that was the inspiration really for weaving those real events into the timeline.
There's a question on here that says, do you write in silence or have music in the background?
Do you know what? That depends on my mood. If I've struggled for a while, then I will go in silence. If I've hit a little bit of momentum, then Spotify goes on. My best rock anthems will be going in the background. I'm not particularly a poppy or dance fan. It has to be something with a good heavy guitar in it. But yeah, that will be going definitely.
Sam wants to know what you learned from writing incognito that will help you moving on to the next book.
Oh, so much, so much. To the point that I said I'm only halfway through the next book, but I already think that the next book is so much better for everything that I've learned. I talked earlier about republishing, and I did that off the back of feedback from readers and reviewers. I think the main thing was showing more, not necessarily telling, but show the situation, show the emotion of a situation rather than explaining something. But also, I wanted now, after having written this, I want my reader to really connect on a very emotional level with the character that they're reading about, and that was something that I didn't fully understand, I don't think, when I started to write.
Did you choose the title and the cover yourself?
Yes, I did. Yeah. The cover originally was very different. I had a cover, and I've designed the covers and everything as well. I designed a cover originally that I personally loved, but readers didn't. And so I got to the point after a few weeks of kind of biting the bullet and thinking, do you know what? I've got to suck it up and I've got to change it because it's not right. It's not working. That's where we ended up with this one. It's tricky, you know. It's one of the things that you don't think about, or I didn't think about when I started to write. You know, all I had in my head was, great, I've got a story. I'm going to write my story. I didn't think about cover design, about title, or even title placement on a cover, and the whole mayhem of marketing afterwards it was an absolute shock to me.
How are you finding doing the marketing?
I'm finding it very difficult in terms of time and resource. You know, for all the reasons that I've mentioned before, it's not easy to commit the time that's needed to really get your book in front of people. It's tough, and to do it on your own is so much tougher, I suppose. I'm very jealous of the people that I keep seeing on the TV, on Good Morning Britain or wherever they are. You know, they've got a book out and we're going to tell you all about it, and I sit there cursing them. It's not easy at all, but it's fun as well. At the same time, I did, with the help of some really lovely, amazing people, I put together something of a blog tour. And I've seen just today, actually, that kind of starting to pick up. So don't tell the boss, but today, whilst I'm working away, my phone's also going crazy because I can see things happening on Twitter and Instagram, and it's such a great feeling to see your name being mentioned by other people. It's brilliant, but it's hard work.
There's so many questions coming in on the stream. And what authors have been an influence on your writing?
Do you know, my first ever book, Stephen King book, I was 7. It was the Tommyknockers. Not one of his best, but my mum was a big Stephen King, Dean Koontz reader. Whenever I could, I'd nip downstairs, steal one of them away to my bedroom, and off I'd go. I'm still a big Stephen King fan. I'm reading If It Bleeds at the moment, which is kind of the next installment of the Outsider series. That's brilliant. I love Stephen King. But specifically in the crime, I suppose more crime genre, Steve Kavanagh, I think, is amazing. 13 was almost seminal for me. I loved it. More recently, Mike M.W. Craven, what can you say? Tilly Bradshaw is a work of genius, I think. I only wish I could have a character like her.
He's a bit of a UK CBC favourite, is Mike Craven.
He definitely is, and rightly so.
There's a message here from Dawn Keat. She says, are there horror elements in your writing?
Not yet, Dawn. No, I'd like to explore that. I don't think I'll necessarily always stick to crime. I'm playing around with a few different ideas at the moment. I want to see the characters from Incognito through, and I know there'll be 3 in this series. but I do also have a couple of other things in mind at the moment, and horror is getting there. I'm developing a bit of an idea there. The other one's actually something a lot more personal. My boys won't be watching this, so I can tell you. I'm also writing something for them for when they're older. God forbid if I'm not here. I want them to have a piece of me, and it might just stay just for them. I don't know, but yeah, I want to writing and a book, if it's written and finished and published, whether it's self-published or traditionally published or however you do it, it's a bit of legacy. And I want my kids to have that bit of me if I'm not here.
Sam has a question about that. She says, do your sons enjoy reading? She thinks she's put her kids off with so many books. She does have a lot of books, to be fair. And I don't have, because I send her them.
They're split 50-50. Two of them love to read. The other two, if it's not a video game of some kind, they're just not interested. So I nabbed an idea off somebody. Do you know, it might even have been in CBC. I think it probably was. I saw somebody put up a post about giving their kid £1 for every book they read over the course of a year. I talked to my kids about this just 2 weeks ago, and they loved that idea. A bit like the post said, they thought they were ripping me off. It's fine. It's really not an issue. If you want to read 20 books a month to get your £20, you go for it, as many as you want. So yeah, I try and encourage them. Two of them are much more naturally inclined to read anyway. The elder two, harder work.
What's the reception been like of Incognito? Do you read all your reviews?
Yes, I do. I know it's kind of a split feel on this, isn't it? Some people say never read them. Some people say, yeah, I absolutely want to read them. And I fall into the second camp. I do want to read them because I can learn from them. More than anything else, I'm never going to pretend that I know everything. Christ, I probably don't even know half of what I need to know yet. So for me to be able to get honest feedback from people who've read what I've done, there's nothing more valuable. So yeah, definitely, I do read them. I will continue to read them. I'd love to know what anybody thinks. Can't say I'd necessarily take on all the changes, but there'll be bits in there that I could absolutely learn from.
Do you have a team of beta readers to read your books?
Yes, I do. Not as big a team as I'd like. And certainly when I'm ready with the second book, I'll be looking to get a bigger team together for that. I think I perhaps let myself down a little bit in the first one, not knowing exactly where I needed to look or what I needed to support me with it. But now, to your question earlier about what I've learned, I definitely need a more varied input before I sign off on it.
Samantha wants to know, is it difficult to write a subject involving real things from your local area?
No, not at all. I don't live there anymore. I moved away when I was 8 or 9. But that was why I chose it. I miss that. That was my very first memories were there. And I don't get back there often enough. I don't really have any real connection with the place now, and that's partly why I chose that. I found it quite cathartic, really, to write about the area and the house. Actually, Abdul's house is my old house, right down to the creaking step, 4 down from the top. And the football pitch is at the bottom of the garden. That was where I grew up. So, yeah, I found it quite therapeutic to write about that, as nasty as the subject is.
Because Manchester's been through quite a lot. in real life.
It has, yeah. But I don't think that really many people from Manchester would say, let's not base this here. I think actually, and speaking to a lot of people from the area, I joined one of the Facebook groups for my old area when I first started doing this, and I put the book up for them for free, just to say, look, I'm a local. We're coming into lockdown. I'd love to give you something just to pass the time a little bit. So for them, I put it up for free for them, and all the feedback was really positive. It was great, and there were comments in there, as I thought there might be, addressing the things that have happened in real life in Manchester, and the fact that they don't want to shy away from that. They don't want to not talk about it. The city responded incredibly when that happened. Not just the city, the county, the area, Greater Manchester as a whole. Everybody came together, and they're proud of that. So for them and for me, it's not about let's worry about upsetting people or being particularly oversensitive. They're very proud of how they reacted. They're very proud of Manchester overall. So to shine a light a little bit on that, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing.
Samantha wants to know, do you write short stories or other things?
Not particularly short stories, no. As I mentioned earlier, yes, I am also writing this other thing. It's feeling very personal at the moment. I don't necessarily think I'm going to share that beyond my family. But I am looking at the horror side as well. I don't think I'll ever get into romance or YA, anything like that. It's not my bag at all. My wife will tell you I'm not necessarily the right guy for romance novels.
Would you be tempted to try a short story? We have lots of shorts events in the group for authors, and an anthology.
I hadn't really thought about it until Criminal Shorts, which, by the way, well done everybody in the club who's contributed to that. And if you haven't ordered it yet, please do, because it's brilliant. Yeah, that has kind of swung my mind a little bit. Yes, I would be interested if I could get the right story for it. Yes.
This is a good one. Looking forward a few weeks, do you celebrate Christmas, and would you set a book during Christmas?
I'm trying really hard not to celebrate Christmas now. My wife has been on me for 3 weeks to put the decorations up early. She wants them up literally today. And I'm pushing back as hard as I can on that, but the boys have all sided with her, and I think I'm going to be outvoted at the weekend. So yes, we do celebrate it. It's traditionally, actually, it's the only time of really the year, other than our summer holiday, where we get to spend some time with the kids. But that's different this year. We've eaten our tea with the kids for the last 6 months, and we were never doing that before. So it may well feel different when we get there. I don't know, but we do celebrate it. We do look forward to it. Would I set a book during Christmas? Yeah, I don't see why not. I think I'd worry slightly about it being a novelty thing. Would anybody want to buy a Christmas themed book in April? No, I'm not sure.
No, why not?
Some people, I guess, need to be in the right mood for something. I don't know. I don't see any Christmas films being released in April, put it that way.
There used to be a Christmas 24 that went up in like summer for a month, and you could watch Christmas movies. Yeah. I say this, I know. Well, my family love Christmas movies. They are already on in the parents' house. Our Christmas tree in the family home is going up at the weekend. It is early, but the mince pies are being made. My dad's founded the group. He's making mince pies. He's watching Christmas movies. He's all for the tree going up early.
Oh, very good.
Got the Christmas spirit in our household. And Sam says hers are going up at the weekend as well. So I think you're being outvoted everywhere.
Sam, you're not helping me. Lisa's going to be watching this.
We all side with her. Sam wants to know what your favourite relationship is in Incognito.
Okay. It's Will and Neil. Will and Neil are they're kind of kindred spirits. They only find themselves or find each other really part way through. But both ex-forces, and they've both found themselves out of the forces and kind of treading water a little bit. So when they reconnect, it's like they switch straight back into the camaraderie and the banter and the joking that they always had when they were in the forces. So that was good fun writing that. You could really ramp up, I guess, the shtick and the comedy in those points.
Someone's agreeing with you about Christmas in December.
Good.
What are your most memorable moments as an author so far?
Well, let's see. I think the first time I saw my book somewhere outside of my own hands, we took a holiday in the summer. We were very lucky. We managed to get away, and we went to Turkey. We were walking in Hisaronu, if anybody knows it. We were walking down the main strip, and I heard my name being shouted, and turned around. There's this guy comes running out of a bar. He's quite a big guy, and I'm thinking, "Oh Christ, what's going on here?" And as he got closer, I realised it was a chap that works with us. He works in our Leeds office. He came running over. We chatted away to him. The next day, he sent me a message on Instagram, and it's a picture of him in a bay, a harbour, sitting on a deck chair, watching all the yachts go by, and he's got a copy of Incognito in his hand. That bless him, he's bought it. He's taken it on holiday with him. That's his holiday read. That will stick with me forever, I think. It was the first time I'd properly seen the book anywhere other than somewhere that I put it, if that makes sense.
One of my favourite author chat questions is, would you make a graphic novel version of your book?
Do you know what? I used to draw when I was a kid. I loved to draw, and it was always charcoal for me. I never used anything else. I really enjoyed spending time with the charcoal and the shading and everything else. I don't know if I would be brave enough to do that. I think I'd need help from people who are far better at it than me. But I don't know enough really about the graphic novel market, the industry, to, I guess, navigate my way around it. I think I'd need some help. I could see Incognito being a graphic novel, if I'm honest. It's I think that the chain of events would lend itself to that. I've never really given it a lot of thought.
Did you have a celebration, like a launch party, on your release day?
No, we really didn't. Nobody knew that I'd done it. I just did it one day, and then I told my wife in the evening when we were sat down in the living room after the kids had gone to bed. I didn't know what to expect, and like I said, that whole kind of part of the journey was still unknown to me at that point. I think in my very naive way, I just thought, okay, great, I finished it. I'm happy with it. I'm going to hit the button. I didn't know what came next, so I didn't want to shout about it too much in case all that came next was nothing.
Do you sell signed copies?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if anybody ever wanted one.
Some of our members do really like to, if they're going to buy a paperback, they prefer to buy it from the author and get them signed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've got a box full of paperbacks sitting in the living room at the moment. So yeah, if anybody wants one, just drop me a message.
Are they everybody's Christmas presents this year?
No. The family have all read, although they've all read different drafts, which is quite funny because when they get together and they talk about it, they've got slightly different stories. Yeah, I've done that on purpose just for my own amusement, really.
Samantha wants to know, if you could pack up and live somewhere for a year while you set your book there, where would you go?
It would be a choice between Turkey. I love Turkey. Just the culture out there and the people are amazing. And yeah, obviously 40-degree heat all the time is never to be sniffed at. Or I think just a cabin in the Highlands, somewhere miles from anywhere. Not really interested if it's snowing or if it's sunny. It doesn't matter to me. Just that complete isolation would be amazing. Our honeymoon was spent in a log cabin. It was 2 days. We did a very quiet wedding. It was just us. But those 2 days in a little cabin in Surrey were just phenomenal 2 days. We always reminisce about that, and we still want to go back there now.
It may have got better from when I lived there, but they've got quite a interesting relationship with electricity and water if you live in Turkey. It just randomly goes off at strange times.
But I quite like the idea of that, having to get a fire going, all of that. It's quite a primitive way of life. But I think that if you're there and you have the internet, you don't have all of these distractions, that can only help you focus and fire up your imagination.
So can you give us any hints about what you're working on at the moment?
Yes, I suppose I can. I want to be careful in case people haven't read Incognito. So there is a follow-on. Lisa and Will are back at it. Slightly different this time. They've developed an undercover, proactive anti-terror unit, and they're picking up their first case. It is connected to the story from Incognito, but it's going to be slightly darker. There are things happening there that were kind of undercurrents, I suppose, in Incognito. No, I'm not going to say that. That's going to spoil something. Sorry.
If Lisa is based on your wife a little, which character in there is based on you?
There's deliberately not one too much. Will has some of my traits. He loves a meat and potato pie just like me. But I didn't want it to be, here's a book about Lisa and her husband. So I shied away from putting too much of me into any one character. There's a little bit of me in Abdul. There's a little bit of me in Neil, but it's all very small kind of bits there that I've really only dropped in to develop the character from my own experience, rather than it to be, that's me and that's Lisa.
Are there any topics you wouldn't write about?
Only the ones that I don't know enough about. Um, I don't think that there really are many topics that shouldn't be written about. I do think that the books that make people stop and make them think and make them question their own beliefs and thinking are by far the most powerful. I'm not suggesting for a moment that this is one of them. We're talking kind of big, world-changing stuff here. But I think they need to be written, and they can be contentious, they can be controversial. Christ, you only have to look back over the years to how many books have been banned in school at a certain point, but then lauded a few years later, as society changes. So, no, I think any topic is fair game, providing it's done sensitively and responsibly.
Samantha wants to know how much you use social media to promote yourself, and is it difficult to fit it in?
A lot now, Samantha. Prior to starting to write, I wasn't on social media at all. I don't use it personally. It's not for me. I've always struggled with it. If I want to be in touch with people, I'll pick up the phone or I'll go and see them, and that's just always been, I suppose, bred into me that that is how you communicate with somebody. So I'm far behind even the kids on social media. They're much better at it than I am. I said to my youngest this morning, actually, when I saw one of the blog tour posts come out, I said, "Oh, come here, look at this. Look, Daddy's kind of famous." He went, "What's that, Dad?" So look, it's a blog. He went, "Blog? Do you mean vlog? What's a blog?" And that for me just showed how out of touch I suppose I am, and even more so when my kids get older. They're going to look back at me doing this even and probably think, "Christ, my dad was old. What was he doing there?" It's not TikTok.
How do you manage to fit in your writing around family and work?
I don't, and I feel really guilty about it when I do. I really struggle to say if I get to a Saturday and I really want to carry on, I'm 50-50 whether I just say to Lisa and the kids that I'm just going to go and lock myself away for half a day so that I can get back into the right headspace and write. Because the time that I get with them is limited as well. And I don't want to miss out on certain things happening with the kids. So what I tend to do instead, and this is awful, but I don't sleep brilliantly. So I tend to wake up at 2 or 3 a.m. And when I do that, I get up and I'll go and get the laptop out and I'll sit and write. And then Lisa will come down in the morning and find me about 7 o'clock thinking, "Oh, Christ, he's done it again." So I'm sure it's not right, and I'm sure it will come back and bite me at some point. But for me, that's how I try and find a balance, is to create more time in my night rather than give up my time with my family during the day.
Would you plan to write full time at some point?
I'd love to, and that's got to be the dream, hasn't it? I feel like I'm learning every day. I feel like I'm developing my ability and my skill and my knowledge all the time. So I don't think I'm ready yet by any stretch. But I do hope that one day, I don't know when, but one day, yeah, absolutely, I'd love to.
What do the people you work with think about your writing?
Do you know, they've been great. They've been really good. We have there's probably close on to 500 people that work in our business, and there's quite a lot of them that have shared my social posts, or they've ordered the book themselves. We've got a bit of a kind of work Facebook that they've put loads of posts on about it, and yeah, it's been really good. I've not had any negativity at all. Yeah, very supportive. I love it.
Is your next book going to be set in Manchester as well?
No, it's not. It's not. It touches on it obviously because that's kind of the base for the characters. But no, we open in the Central Criminal Court in the Old Bailey, and a good chunk of it's spent in HMP Woodhill in Milton Keynes. And I'm tapping into a good friend of mine who shall remain nameless, but he's quite well connected there on the employed side, not on the guest side. So I've been using him as a very, very good resource to be able to set that scene quite well.
Yeah, because I was going to say, how would you like picture the inside and things? Do you get like a map then?
Well, the easiest way is to go and have a look.
Oh, this is a good one. Without spoilers, what about 13 drew you in?
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I mentioned earlier on that I do love a good serial killer thriller. I think the cover design for 13 in and of itself was enough to draw a lot of people in. You know, the contrast of colours, quite smart use of text and numbers in the title. But you know, it was those couple of lines, wasn't it? The killer's not on trial; he's in the jury. For me, that was enough to go, blimey, yeah, okay. But once I'm in, I was in. I couldn't put it down.
What advice would you give to anyone who's just about to start out writing? What have you learned that you wish you could pass on?
Think about more than just the writing. Definitely understand what is involved in marketing, in editing, cover design, everything. It's so very easy, I think, and it certainly was for me, when you first start out, to just focus purely on the story, as if, you know, having the story is everything. And it is. But if nobody ever picks up your story, why are you doing it? You know, and to get it into the hand of somebody who will read it and appreciate it is, I think, far more challenging than writing the story itself.
Samantha wants to know, do you plan anything before you start writing? So did you have the whole plot set out for Incognito before you got going?
No, I had very loose plans. I had probably 4 or 5 lines summarizing each chapter as I went. But you know, as I sat down to write, by chapter 3, I was over here. My plan was here, and I'd gone, and there was no coming back. There was no way that it would come full circle back to that initial plan. So I learned after 3 attempts at amending the plan as I went, I just stopped doing it. I think it's good to have a very loose framework initially. You know, you need to know what the arcs are and kind of where you want to take certain people. But how they get there, for me, will never stick to a detailed plan. So I'm better off just not writing that.
How did you find writing a chapter for like different people? Was that quite tricky to sort of change voices in your head?
No, I didn't. I didn't find that hard at all, actually. And I can't really even tell you why I did that, because it wasn't a deliberate choice. All I knew was I had certain players at different starting points, and I wanted to draw them all together, and it just felt like a natural way of doing that, is to edge them all in one at a time, almost towards the point where they all meet. So yeah, in my mind, it was quite a progressive thing. You know, I needed Lisa to be here by a certain point. I needed Abdul to be here by a certain point. So if I rotated around them, then I could manage that rather than doing one person all in one go or trying to juggle them all at the same time.
Samantha says, do you have go-to authors that you buy anything from without reading the blurb? I call them shut up and take my money authors.
I go through phases, really. I mentioned him before. Stephen King will get most of my money. But I did go off him for a spell. I think he had a bit of a patch where I wasn't particularly keen on some of his stuff. I do like a Dean Koontz. I love a James Patterson. These guys, if I see their name popping up, then absolutely I'll have a look at them. But I think I also need to be in the right mood as well. I get quite affected by the last book I finished. And if it was particularly heavy in one topic or one subject, then the next book for me has to be something a little different.
Yeah. Have you ever read Joe Hill?
Joe Hill? Yes.
It's good, isn't he? So when Incognito had been completed, who was the first person to read it?
Lisa. Yeah, it will always be Lisa. It's really, really good, and I love the fact that she'll tell me exactly what she's thinking, and there's no softly in there. There's no ego involved at all. She'll tell me if it's rubbish. She'll tell me if it needs to change. She'll tell me if I've gone too far. So, yeah, she'll always be first. I'm lucky to have quite big readers around me, so they'll come second. But only if it passed the first draft.
So I'm sorry, I'm just picking which question to ask you next.
That's okay.
What's your favourite Stephen King book?
Is it cliche to say The Stand? I don't know. I loved it, actually. But the short story collections, not necessarily the big ones, and that's why I picked up If It Bleeds when I first saw that, because a King collection of shorts was something for me as a kid that I really looked forward to, and I knew when my mum had one, the minute she got to that last page and she stopped dog-earing the pages, I was having it. So yeah, I think they're probably the ones. 4 Past Midnight stands out as one that I certainly remember going back to quite a few times.
Oh, that is another good one. Are you available on audiobook? We have some members who only read on audiobook.
Yeah, and do you know what? That was something else that I didn't understand when I first started this. So yes, it will be very soon. It's in final review. It's all been narrated, and Siobhan Dowd, if any of you have listened to her before or have come across her in the past, she's fantastic. I loved working with her. I listened to quite a few auditions for a narrator for Incognito, but hers was far and away the best. She's done a brilliant job of narrating the book, and it's just now in the final sign-off process. I'm expecting it to be available in the next 2 weeks.
Interesting. Were you not tempted to have different voices for the audiobook because of different people in the chapters?
I didn't know what to do to begin with. I listened to, it must have been upwards of 30 different auditions, and it just felt right when I heard Siobhan do it. It just clicked. And even though she's reading different characters and different accents and dialects, yeah, that one was the one that just clicked for me. So, like I say, I didn't go into it with any expectation at all about whether it should be a man or it should be a group or it should be a woman. I didn't know. But Siobhan for me was definitely the right voice at that time.
Samantha wants to know if you're friends with other authors. It's always good to have a network of other authors, I think.
Do you know what? Only through places like the book club here. I've gotten talking to quite a few different authors thanks to this group. And yeah, I've definitely picked up quite a bit of valuable advice from doing that. So thank you. You and your dad and everybody involved in running the club, because I've learned a lot through being a part of it.
We do have quite a lot of useful people in the group as well that can be called upon as experts, which is quite handy. We have a little file of them in the group.
There you go. So yeah, as and when I come across the need for a bit of expert input, I'll certainly ask. But I've never been shy in coming forward, and I've posed quite a few questions over the course of writing this that the members have been brilliant in helping me answer.
Cool, that's good to hear. We've only got a couple of minutes left, so do you want to remind everyone about your book before we finish?
Yes, please. So yeah, here we go. This is, where am I? There I am. This is me. It's incognito. It's Michael Winson. You can get it on Amazon. You can very soon get it on Audible and iTunes. It's paperback and digital. If anybody really wants a signed copy, please drop me a message in the club, and I'll happily send those to you. And yeah, thank you for having me, Caroline.
You're welcome.
And yeah, please, I said earlier, if you guys haven't yet, please do also, after you've ordered mine, order as well. The Red Kite School is only a few miles up the road from me here, so I know a little bit about what they do. You're a big group, we're a big group, and we can really make a difference with those guys, so please do.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping for. We're really hoping we can give them a nice size check.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's been good fun. Appreciate it.